Greetings, I'm Logue, and this is Let's Talk Consciousness, an ongoing set of videos where I pretty much look at anything that I can possibly relate to the premise that reality itself is consciousness, that consciousness is primary to reality rather than being the other way around. I was very excited to see Elon Musk on Joe Rogan Experience and caught the alert to catch it live, so that was really cool. But as people have taken their favorite clips and uploaded them, undoubtedly I knew people were going to choose the section where they were talking about simulation theory because there's plenty of people who are interested in that. But I think he said something that, as far as I could tell, got kind of glossed over, and I thought was interesting and worth pointing to. And in honor of him smoking a blunt on a podcast and losing share price and fucking employees, I'll salute him too. But point being, plenty of people talk about simulation theory, and he makes, a good short restatement of the idea in a couple of videos, so I won't bother doing that. But if the premise most people have is that maybe this is base reality or maybe this is a simulation of base reality, it still always rides on this assumption that the reality that this comes from is similar to what we experience now. And I think one of the things he said kind of points to, at least in his estimation of it, or the musings he has, that it's maybe very different from this, and that this reality is perhaps very, very novel, and being a human being is perhaps very, very novel compared to our true state. And it was exciting to me because it ties into a whole bunch of other ideas that I really like, whether it's Eastern philosophy or I always dislike the phrase, but large parts of the New Age movement, or something else I've gotten into more recently, which is A Course in Miracles, which is a fascinating and weird book that's hard to explain what it is to easily share with people, but I don't know, look it up. But point being, he pointed to the idea that the reality that the simulation was made in would be very boring compared to this. And he used the example that an action movie, takes a year to film. It takes hours and hours of editing and rendering and CGI and so forth. And what you get is a 2-hour movie, all the exciting bits. And that perhaps a original reality or default reality would be everything, all possible states of being, all possible concepts, ideas, experiences, infinite, but in such a way where there's no differentiation, there's no judgment of good or bad, there's no perception of any good or bad. And that's what a reality like this is for. To be distinct and separate from the allness that perhaps is boring, or perhaps boring is not the right word, but we lack the concept for what it might be. I mean, it might be very joyous to be in that state, but imagine if all concepts, thoughts, realities were kind of equally present and accepted at the same time. Wouldn't that then make it kind of interesting to deviate from that and to be, a bipedal mammal on a spinning lava ball encased in crust, spinning around a nuclear furnace? Like, all these things are really perhaps very interesting when you can see them in this, sharp awareness, this isolation of this very small point of view. And that fits perfectly with, all these ancient religions and modern New Age concepts that reality is a single consciousness that divided and subdivided itself into smaller points of view, never truly separating from the whole. It's that all is one, but that individual perception is this thing that's born out of separating from the one, even if maybe it's only an illusion, which is the interesting thing I find in A Course in Miracles, is that it points to this idea that this is a dream, this is an illusion, one that's actually pretty unpleasant and kind of terrifying if you're being led around by your ego, and that releasing fear and becoming more loving and forgiving is the kind of precondition for peace that is necessary before you can have knowledge or wisdom. Um, but that's kind of a whole other topic. I know this was about Elon Musk. So, anyway, I'll keep this brief. Um, I highly recommend watching it maybe more than once. Lots of good things are discussed. But yeah, if you're thinking about simulation theory and you think of it as a person that looks like this and has a VR helmet on and takes it off and suddenly they're in reality again, maybe I find it more interesting to think that, maybe the computer that renders this is actually consciousness itself. So I wish you all well, and go in peace.